While UFOs, or unidentified flying objects, became culturally prominent after World War II, escalating during the space age, unusual sightings have been reported in the sky throughout history, including very ancient ones. The Vedic scriptures, or the Vedas, are a large body of religious texts originating in ancient India. Composed in Vedic Sanskrit, the texts constitute the oldest layer of Sanskrit literature and the oldest scriptures of Hinduism. The Vedas have been orally transmitted since the second millennium BC. Here is what the Vedas have to say about extraterrestrial aliens and UFOs. Descriptions of aliens, extraterrestrial beings in Vedic scripture by Arya Lawa Manwawa and Nyoman Suderman. Polemics emerge when religion is faced to the fact that there are supposedly visitation of intelligent beings from other planets, in many cases from ancient times up to now. Vedic literature as basis of Hindu religious teachings is one of many religious resources which can be used as reference to this inquiry or study. Result of the study reveals that Vedic scriptures, especially the four Vedas, Puranas, and Itihasas, clearly mention about existence of extraterrestrial species, alien beings, and their interactions with humans since the Vedic era. These extraterrestrial beings are of different categories, which are more elaborately enlisted in some major Puranic literatures. In the Bhagavata Purana, Canto 10, Chapter 76, it is mentioned about a war between mischievous King Salva and the inhabitants of Dvaraka. Although alien entities were not mentioned in the chapter, it does state about flying saucer with extraordinary technology and weaponry uncommon to human race. The Valmiki Ramayana Sundara Kanda section, chapter 8, verse 6, vividly mentions an alien race called the Buddhaganas who controlled Ravana's flying machine. The verse is as follows: Those wonderful Vimana aircrafts roamed the sky with extremely high speed, controlled by thousands of evil creatures with big round eyes, with helmets on their heads. Now the big question is, do Christians believe in aliens? Some atheists claim that the existence of aliens would mean that Christianity would unravel or disengage. A discovery of aliens would be a greater challenge to Christianity than perhaps any other worldview. As the thinking goes, the existence of aliens would help prove evolution and dismantle any evidence that humans are the pinnacle of creation, as Christianity tends to hold. So, do Christians believe in aliens? Do Christians reject the existence of aliens? Based on what 12 Christian leaders say about aliens, it is clear that some do while others don't. Furthermore, many Christians who acknowledge the existence of extraterrestrial aliens believe they are just demons or evil spirit beings masquerading as flesh and blood, but I beg to disagree. I believe extraterrestrial aliens do exist, and some of them are actually fully human, while others are either human-animal hybrids or human-animal chimeras. First, let me talk about fully human aliens and how they came to reside on another planet besides Earth. I believe this category is the lost offsprings of Cain. Many who read the Bible assume the descendants of Cain died during the Great Flood in Noah's time. However, if one compares the list of Cain's descendants in the Bible with the descendants of Seth, the third son of Adam, one can see that the list of Cain's descendants ended before the time of Noah. Genesis chapter 4, verses 17 to 22. Cain made love to his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad was the father of Mehujael, and Mehujael was the father of Methushael, and Methushael was the father of Lamech. Lamech married two women, one named Ada and the other Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal. He was the father of those who lived in tents and raised livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all who play stringed instruments and pipes. Zillah also had a son, Tubal-Cain, who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. Tubal-Cain's sister was Naamah. Counting from Cain up to the grandchildren of Lamech, the children of Jabal and Jubal, we get 8 generations. Now compare this with the descendants of Seth, the third son of Adam. Genesis chapter 5, verses 3 to 29. When Adam had lived 130 years, he had a son in his own likeness, in his own image, and he named him Seth. When Seth had lived 105 years, he became the father of Enosh. When Enosh had lived 90 years, he became the father of Kenan. When Kenan had lived 70 years, he became the father of Mahalalel. When Mahalalel had lived 65 years, he became the father of Jared. When Jared had lived 162 years, he became the father of Enoch. When Enoch had lived 65 years, he became the father of Methuselah. After he became the father of Methuselah, Enoch walked faithfully with God 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enoch lived a total of 365 years. Enoch walked faithfully with God, then he was no more, because God took him away. When Methuselah had lived 187 years, he became the father of Lamech. When Lamech had lived 182 years, he had a son. He named him Noah. Counting from Seth, the younger brother of Cain, up to Noah, we get 9 generations, while counting from Seth up to Lamech, we get only 8 generations, which is the same number of generations for Cain and his descendants until they mysteriously disappeared before the time of Noah. It is very clear that Cain's offsprings did not die from the great flood during Noah's time, but were taken away during the time of Lamech, which was also when Enoch was taken away by God. Enoch was taken away 113 years after Methuselah's son Lamech was born and 69 years before Noah was born. I believe Cain's descendants were taken to a place called Tartarus, where also the fallen angels were taken who married human women and fathered the Nephilims mentioned in Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 to 7. Tartarus occurs in the Septuagint translation of Job into Koine Greek, chapter 40, verse 20, and chapter 41, verse 24, and in Hellenistic Jewish literature from the Greek text of the Book of Enoch, dated to 400 to 200 BC. This states that God placed the archangel Uriel in charge of the world and of Tartarus, chapter 20, verse 2. Tartarus is generally understood to be the place where 200 fallen watchers, angels, are imprisoned. Reference to the watchers of the Book of Enoch is also observed in Jude, chapter 1, verse 6, where Scripture describes angels being bound by chains under everlasting darkness, and 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4, which further describes fallen angels committed to chains in Tartarus. A human-animal hybrid is an organism that incorporates elements from both humans and non-human animals. Technically, in a human-animal hybrid, each cell has both human and non-human genetic material. It is in contrast to an individual where some cells are human and some are derived from a different organism called a human-animal chimera. A humanized mouse is a mouse carrying functioning human genes, cells, tissues, and/or organs. Humanized mice are commonly used as small animal models in biological and medical research for human therapeutics. The first stable human-animal chimeras to actually exist were first created by Shanghai Second Medical University scientists in 2003, the result of having fused human cells with rabbit eggs. In 2017, a human pig chimera was reported to have been created. In 2021, a human monkey chimera was created. Just as humans were successful in creating these human-animal hybrids or chimeras, I believe the descendants of Cain living in Tartarus were even more advanced in this technology and created their own version of mutant animal humanoids. And this explains why reptilian humanoids appear in folklore, religion, and conspiracy theories. According to the Book of Enoch, the women who married the fallen angels and bore Nephilim children with them became sirens. The sirens of 3rd century Greek mythology were described as part woman and part bird. The Nagas are a divine or semi-divine race of half-human, half-serpent beings that reside in the netherworld and can occasionally take human or part human form in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Rakshasas are a race of usually malevolent beings prominently featured in Hindu mythology. They reside on Earth but possess supernatural powers which they usually use for evil acts. Rakshasas were most often depicted as shape-shifting, fierce-looking, enormous, monstrous-looking creatures with two fangs protruding from the top of the mouth and having sharp, claw-like fingernails. They were shown as being mean, growling beasts and as insatiable man-eaters that could smell the scent of human flesh. Some of the more ferocious ones were shown with flaming red eyes and hair, drinking blood with their cupped hands, or from human skulls similar to representations of vampires in later Western mythology. Indonesian Muslims view the Rakshasas as the result of people whose soul is replaced by the spirit of a devil. The devils are envious of humans and thus attempt to possess their body and minds. If they succeed, the human adapts to the new soul and gains their qualities, turning the person into a Rakshasa. According to the Book of Enoch, the Nephilim children of the fallen angels with their human wives turned into evil spirits that dwell permanently on earth. I believe these are the evil spirits that possess humans and turn them into Rakshasas. According to Sri Lankan folklore, these evil spirits that possess humans and turn them into Rakshasas are the Yakshas, and together with the Nagas and Rakshasas, they inhabited Sri Lanka before the arrival of Vijaya and his men who colonized the island. Note that while the fallen angels were bound to Tartarus according to scriptures, there was no mention that the descendants of Cain, including their mutant animal humanoid creations, are bound to that planet. Thus, I believe some of Cain's descendants and their mutant creations were able to escape that planet, inhabited Sri Lanka, and resided on Earth. In my previous video titled Solomon's Gold Mines in Ophir and Ancient Egypt's Land of Punt, where in the Indus Valley Civilization, I identified Sri Lanka as the mythical place which ancient Egypt called Punt, and which the Egyptians described as Ta Nature, or God's land. Older literature maintained that the label God's land, when interpreted as Holy Land or Land of the Gods' ancestors, meant that the ancient Egyptians viewed the land of Punt as their ancestral homeland.